Hello ladies and gentlemen, today I've got a nice review of a game called Yohane the Parhelion, Blaze in the Deep Blue, which is a lot of words that won't mean much to most people, but let me say 4 more words to get you interested. Metroidvania from Inti Creates. Did that get you? Well, it should. So what is this? Well, Yohane the Parhelion, I'm told, is a spin-off of some kind of anime, because of course it is. I don't know anything about it aside from that, but don't worry, you don't need to know anything either. This is a pretty great game, all things considered. The plot is thus. Some sort of underwater labyrinth has sprung up out of nowhere, and loads of people have gone missing inside, most of whom are conveniently Yohane's acquaintances. So obviously she wants to jump in and save them. That's pretty much the goal of the game. You start out with a decent enough tutorial to show you the ropes. Not sure why people think anybody would be interested in ropes. That's even less interesting than when people try to show you pictures of their kids. I'm not interested. You have all your standard moves that any Metroidvania has, or at least will have, because it wouldn't be fun if you started out with everything. And initially the game can feel a little bit generic for the first half an hour or so, but it's desperate to show you what sets it apart, even if it doesn't make the most of it until a little bit later on. So the gimmicks for this one, well, you have 2 attacks. You have your ally mapped to the Y button. Initially you only start out with your doggo friend who attacks by clawing. And for me, he or she was my main attack for like a ton of this game, mainly down to the fact that they don't use DP. Oh yeah, you have DP in this game, and get your filthy mind out of the gutter, because you can consider this your magic points as such, maybe your stamina. Your other allies use up DP, so I prefer to only use them for puzzle aspects that they're needed for. Yeah, they attack, and yeah, they can be much more powerful, but I was reluctant to use up my DP, because your secondary attack also uses it. Mapped to the ZR shoulder button, you will equip various weapons in your journey, maybe a sword style thing, a crossbow, or even an axe. This is supposed to be you attacking rather than your allies, and I found myself using this sparingly at first, because yes, I wanted to save my DP for a rainy day. Which is a bit misguided on my part, because there are save points literally all over the place, and there's always one before a boss fight, so it gets instantly replenished very often. But just like when I fart, I will blame the dog. If the dog wasn't a freebie, I wouldn't have been so prude. It made me feel like I needed to use him to be responsible, but not really. Later on, once I got more DP, then I was a bit more liberal, and you definitely need to be against the bosses, which are fun and fairly tough if you don't know their attack patterns. These are some of the funnest parts of the game, also the most exciting, because you know what the reward is going to be afterwards. You get a new ally, which is essentially a new power-up and will help you traverse areas that you previously couldn't get to. Like the Fire Lady, I can't remember her name, but she melts the ice walls. The Robo Frog, who can pound concrete slabs to break them. There are a lot of companions, all things considered, and it can be a bit of a hassle to scroll through them. Yeah, there is a selection wheel, but I don't really know them by facial recognition. I'm not a government database, but it is fun having all these companions at your disposal, and I think the game is balanced enough that none of them feel truly neglected. Although I did wonder why they bothered with the water girl as the first one, as she's helpful for like one tiny thing early on, and she isn't needed again for like another couple of hours. But aside from this, the other gimmick found in Blaze in the Deep Blue is the crafting thing, which is kind of loose in its description. It's a super casual thing where you'll notice as you break pots and kill monsters, you'll pick up lots of completely random materials. Pop in the craft menu and you'll see what you can currently make. These are a mix of weapons and armor or accessories that you can equip, and you will 100% need to keep on top of this if you want an easier time in the game, especially against the bosses. It can look a bit overwhelming. I wasn't a big fan of the presentation of this aspect, just really messy having everything dumped in one long list without a seeming order. And when you're invited to make something, it's not exactly convenient to compare it side by side with what you've already got equipped. Like, is it an actual upgrade? Can I be asked to go out of this menu and into the equipment section to double check? Maybe I'm just lazy. Thankfully, the game is balanced enough that you'll be collecting the materials for like the higher grade items as you progress through the game. There's always a steady increase in the items available for crafting, and you don't really need to think about it too much aside from big numbers good. The map design, really nice. There's a good variety of styles within the labyrinth, and the game is pacey enough that you won't be too far away from the next one, whether it be in the sandy ruins, a volcano, or forest-like area, and things flow pretty well, even if it might seem a bit random at times. There's no real storytelling within the environments, it's just very video gamey. And you'll find all kinds of puzzles that you normally see elsewhere, like, hey look, here's a high ledge, maybe you need a double jump for that, or a wall climb. The funnest one is the cannon, where you just get blasted across the screen. That's kinda hilarious and useful. All in all, it's a super solid game, as you'd expect from Inti Creates. It's nothing revolutionary, but Metroidvania fans will eat this one up no problem. I've gone a bit cold on the genre over the past few years, since it seems like every indie game needs to be a grim, dark Metroidvania, but I really think this is a good time. It's not so serious, and it's not so jokey, it's just fun, well planned out, well designed, that was probably created in a lab. Yeah, Inti Creates, they've got this down to a science by now. Now this is available digitally on the eShop for $30 in the US, which I think is quite a lot for a digital release, but it's Inti Creates, and also they have a rather expensive license they need to pay off. Personally, I would go with the physical edition, so you actually have some tangible value. It's available physically, but currently only in Japan. But that does have English and will play on any Switch, so it's prime for importing. There is a standard edition, as well as a collector's edition, which includes an acrylic board, a tapestry, and a soundtrack CD, which is good because the soundtrack is really nice, as you'd expect. And it's worth noting that this is also the case for the PS5 version, if you're wanting that. And if you do, check the links below in the description and the pinned comment. I've pointed you to the perfect place to import a copy for your collection, so you can keep it forever. And you also help support us at the same time. Plus, if you click our link, we can support you because yeah, you can get 5% off with our current discount code SWTV23, which is good to go until the end of the year. If you're watching this in the future, well, subscribe, hit that bell button, and watch the latest Let's Get Physical video every Monday for the latest discount code. Do I think it's worth it? With a physical copy, yes. I think it's a bit pricey for the digital release, but that's just me and how I like to spend my money. I think you've got yourself a really super solid Metroidvania that has an anime license stamped on it. Perhaps it's not as obsessively crafted as it could have been. Some of it does feel by the books and perhaps going through the motions, but I was compelled throughout. I never felt bored. Even when I was trying to hoover up the last treasure chests and find that one exit that was stopping my progress. It's not a huge time sink and can be gone through in a couple of evenings, and yeah, I had a good time with it. I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. If you watch this all the way through, please leave me a fire emoji in the comments. Why? Because it's Blaze in the Deepblue, obviously. If you want to pick this up physically, check the links below. I would massively appreciate that. And yeah, subscribe. And even maybe check out my other channel, A Bit More Jordan, for a lot more me. If you like retro games, head over there. Have a good day, everyone.